So, so we have the world famous Emily Russell with us today, and you've got a little bit of history with the building that we're going to be talking about. We all know it as the Book Vault today, but how have you known it through your life?
Well, of course, it was the office for me, and it was, and I worked there part of the time. I went to work there in the latter 70s, sometime in the abstract office. So I think Chuck bought it. I think one of the questions you want to know is when we got it, and I'm not sure when we got it, but it was either the latter 50s or early 60s. Maybe you all have the date. I don't know if you perhaps would know it if you ever went over to the courthouse.
Yeah, I haven't caught up on this very well. I just jumped at the opportunity to sit and chat with you again.
Yeah. Bit, so. Okay. Well, as I say, that would probably be, I think Chuck bought the Chuck. We came back from Iowa State, and he bought the Roger Williams Insurance Agency, and this was after World War II, and that was in 1949. And then he, into Mackey's insurance agency, when he would keep buying other agencies up as he could, but he always wanted to buy Carl Johnson's insurance agency because it fit very nicely in the insurance companies and so forth. And Carl Johnson died. And so he also had an Johnson abstract with his insurance agency. And so Chuck went in to buy just the insurance, and they said, well, no, they weren't going to sell just the insurance. They were going to sell the two together, the abstract and the insurance. And so Chuck decided, well, okay, he would try to buy the abstract then to get the insurance. And so he put his name in, but there were a whole gob of other people in town that wanted to buy it too. And but fortunately they sold it to Chuck instead of the other people. And I think the reason they did was because his insurance agency in the abstract was on the second floor of the Olson building. And he had gotten older, Carl had gotten older, and my dad let him go up the elevator in the Olson building, and he cut a door through to his office from the second floor of the Olsons, and so that he could get to his office. Otherwise, he had his only way of going was to go on these outside stairs on the outside of the building over there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the family always appreciated it. And he appreciated it, the fact that my dad let him do that. And so I think he sold it to Chuck for that reason. I mean, the family did. So then Chuck was in the abstract business, and as well as the insurance. And then it was shortly after that, he moved his insurance business to the second floor of the Olson building and into the Johnson insurance part. And it wasn't long after that the bank building there came up for sale.
Okay.
But I don't know when it was. As I say, I think it'd be in the 50s or latter 50s or early 60s, maybe. I'm not sure, but somewhere in there.
Okay.
And so he moved in his business into the bank building, which it really fit the abstract business, particularly the abstract business, very well because of the vaults in there. And it was an old bank building, as you know. I mean, it'd been a bank building always.
Right.
And they used the vaults. There were those three big vaults in the bank building They put the abstract books in every night and shut those doors. And it was good for that. They weren't worried about anybody stealing them so much, but it was good for fire.
Right.
Fire purposes. Yeah.
So,
So, but I don't think Chuck didn't change the building very much, really, not too much. It was always a bank building. Then there, and the abstract was on the one side, and the insurance was, it was pretty much the same. And actually, the book vault hasn't changed it too much either. But the book vault, I think, to change it to a bookstore, they needed more changes than they did to change it to an insurance agency.
well, one of those pressing questions I just have to know is, do you remember the combinations?
But we had them. They were there in a drawer, were all written down.
Did you have to tug on those pretty hard to get those doors open in the morning? Did you? Did you have to pull on those?
We just always shut them and just turned the thing just a little teeny bit, so we didn't have to. It wasn't a big deal to get them open in the morning.
Right. That was more of that fire protection sort of deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys didn't have to change the building much. It sounds like from from a bank to using it as an abstract office.
It really was a good deal, actually. It worked quite well.
So you guys were in there for how long?
Well, I'd say a good 30 years anyway. Let's see. Chuck sold it to the building in the 90s and sold it to Patty Lamberson. And for a few years after that, it was she had an antique store in there.
Yep, I remember
that. She didn't have it too long. Actually, during that time, Chuck was on his own for quite a while, and then his business grew, and he needed somebody else in there with him. And Jack Lamberson came in there with him, and at the time, then Chuck gave Jack half ownership to the building. And so Jack had half ownership to the building. And during his time in there, he sold it to his half to Joe Crookham.
Okay.
And so then it ended out that Joe owned half of it and Chuck owned half of it then.
Okay.
And but Joe never, Chuck, he never did pay any attention whatever Chuck wanted to do to it or anything. He just said, okay, it was, he was a really good half owner, so to speak. And then I think it ended out then that Patty Lamberson sold her half to Joe, and that's how she got. Oh. How he got it, I think.
Okay. So I have had the pleasure of seeing most of Chuck's photo collection. I think I've scanned a large portion of them in, and there's great pictures of people in suits and ties. And I mean, it was just that grand era for business downtown. So can you tell us about what it was like and the culture was like of doing business in Oskaloosa, Iowa during that time?
Well, yes, I think people did, guys always wore suits and ties at that time. And I think that's why Sunstroms went out of business, because they stopped wearing suits and ties.
Yeah, I'm a little guilty here. So, so what was that like though? Was that such a much more formal way of doing business? What was it kind of like at that time period? Was it so much different than now?
Well, I don't know that from that angle it was, really not too, the style of dressing maybe was a little bit different, but I think maybe the biggest difference then, was when the mall was built. Before the mall and after the mall, it was, I think that made a great deal of change in the downtown. And fortunately, I think, it was very controversial, as you probably know. And but in a way, the mall saved. It was at a time when the Carters were putting in the outside of town. That mall
That,
outside of town.
yeah, I think they had the
And
At Pick Mall. Is that what they called it?
yes, the Adpic Mall. And I know, Bill Carter used to say he was going to get the courthouse to go out there. And so, and there was talk about Penny's, which was, of course, the big store on the corner there where Brown Shoe Fit is now. Was on the corner, and there was talk about Penny's was going to move out to Adpic Mall. And so, that was the impetus really of the downtown mall, is to keep the businesses downtown.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to a certain degree, it did do that.
Right.
But
It was a different time for sure.
Yes, it was a different time. Yes, right. Uh-huh.
So
And
go ahead. Sorry about that.
well, I can only say it too. At that time, I started working, as I say, in the abstract business, because there was lots of real estate going on at that time, and so the abstract business needed extra help, and so I started working in the abstract business at the latter 70s, and I would. Chuck had always been. He had served a term as mayor. And he was very, he had always thought that the bandstand needed to be redone or fixed up, not redone, it's just fixed up, actually. And he had spent a lot of time on that, not as mayor, but after he was mayor. And he contacted the architect that had done it, that was the architect. Well, of course, the architect that had done it was dead, but it was his architectural firm.
Right.
Was still there in Des Moines. And he had contacted them and gotten the original plans to the bandstand and had them. And he was working on that, trying to get money for that. He and Dan Kubal worked with him on that. I remember a lot. And so anyway, the Main Street started in the middle of the 80s, 84, 85. And I was the first president of the Main Street, and for the first 3 years. And we decided that was what we wanted to do, was to fix up the bandstand in the park. And I had really been noticing it, because every day I would, doing the abstract work, I would go over to the courthouse from the building there and walk across the park. And I just noticed it really was in bad shape, really bad shape. It was not only the bandstand, but the park too.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big deal for us anyway, to work on that and the Main Street. And we did get it done. Did get it done with the well, of course, the council and everybody else. But we had a good council then.
Yeah,
that was very helpful.
Well, I will say, for most everybody that loves the bandstand in the park and what it represents in Oskaloosa, thank you for helping be a spearhead to help revitalize that.
I think it's pretty beloved.
So you shared a pretty special memory about your time. Do you have any other special memories from inside the building itself, or your time with Chuck, your husband, in there, or friends, or coffee time?
It was a great building. I enjoyed it very much, and I think everybody that worked in there did. It was a good group that worked in there, and we had good coffee times. And it was good. It was a great time, great building, actually. And I'm so glad what Joe did. He not only kept the building the way it was, but he just really made it so much better with that
So,
book vault.
well, I'm wrapping up of the questions that I was given here. So I always give somebody an opportunity to share some other thoughts that maybe we haven't touched on. I know you've got 30 years of memories, connected to that building, and so that's pretty special. It's pretty hard to wrap it up in 2 or 3 minutes. I'm absolutely sure. But any last thoughts, Emily?
Let's see. Oh, there's just lots of memories in that building. Well, one I can remember that Chuck always put out a flag on the front. He had a thing, and he'd go out every morning and put this flag in the sidewalk in the front. And I can remember it got, particularly during the Vietnam War. It was it was an ornery time, and actually Chuck thought the Vietnam War wasn't too good. And so, but he said, I'm going to put that flag out there anyway.
I think have seen several pictures with that flag out there. So,
Yes.
Well, I appreciate your time. I hope you're enjoying your. It looks very sunny there. It is not so sunny here in Oskaloosa today.
Yeah, yeah. The sun's out here,
and
but it's probably cooler. I bet it's warmer there though. It's in the maybe upper 40s.
It's probably about mid 50s here, so it's a little warmer, but not much. And it's been raining and misting, so I'd probably take yours over ours today. So.
Well, I want to know, where are you with that American flag in the back of you? Where are you?
I'm in my office here at Penn Central Mall, and what you're seeing is just some backdrops that I have here for different photos that I'll shoot, or sometimes I do different zooms or different things like that.
Okay, so you're in your Penn Central Mall. Okay.
Yep, I think you've been in here before, so.
Yes.
A couple times, maybe just a few times. So, well, I greatly appreciate your time. I miss being able to catch up with you on a regular basis. So maybe one day soon we'll get to do that again. So.
That's right. I hope to.
All righty. Hey, you take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon or talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thanks, Emily. All righty. Bye-bye.